Thousands of protesters gather in front of the French embassy in Niamey in support of the junta that took over Niger earlier this week. Dozens of people killed and almost 200 wounded after a powerful bomb ripped through a political rally in northwestern Pakistan.
A 99-year-old woman receives a book that belonged to her younger brother who died in the Holocaust.
Waving Russian flags and chanting "Down with France," thousands of people staged a protest outside the French embassy in Niamey on Sunday in support of the junta that took over Niger earlier this week. Niger's former colonial ruler, France, has condemned the coup, with President Macron warning that he would not tolerate any threats to France and its interests. The French government has also suspended aid and security cooperation to Niger, demanding the return of ousted leader Mohamed Bazoum. The situation in Niger remains delicate, with some hostile to any foreign attempts to influence affairs.
I would like also to say to the European Union, African Union and ECOWAS, please stay out of our business.
Meanwhile, the West African regional group ECOWAS has warned the junta to cede power within a week or face extreme sanctions and possible use of force.
Russian authorities say 3 Ukrainian drones attacked Moscow in the early hours of Sunday, injuring 1 person and prompting the temporary closure of one of the capital's 4 airports. 1 drone was shot down by air defense systems, officials said, while 2 others were jammed. These 2 then crashed into the Moscow city business district, damaging a building and injuring a security guard. The Russian Ministry of Defense also said on Sunday that its forces had repelled an overnight attack by 25 Ukrainian drones in Crimea and that Russian armed forces repelled an offensive by the Ukrainian armed forces in the Zaporizhia region. On the other side of the conflict, a Russian missile strike on the Ukrainian city of Sumy has killed at least 1 person and injured 5, according to Ukraine's national police. Their spokesperson said the strike hit an educational facility. Video footage shows injured people being carried away from the scene.
Dozens of people were killed and almost 200 wounded after a powerful bomb exploded at a political rally in northwestern Pakistan. The explosion on the outskirts of Kar, the capital of the Bajour district, ripped through a crowd of supporters of hardline cleric and political leader Maulana Fazlur Rahman. Many of the wounded were taken to the city's main hospital, with some of the injuries described as critical. No one immediately claimed responsibility for the attack, but the Islamic State group operates across the border in Afghanistan. 6 people were killed and 7 injured in Lebanon's largest Palestinian refugee camp after clashes erupted early on Sunday. According to anonymous Palestinian officials, the fighting broke out after an unknown gunman tried to assassinate Islamist militant Mahmoud Khalil, killing a companion of his instead. Later, Islamist militants assassinated a Palestinian military general from the Fatah group and 3 escorts. The clashes stopped for several hours in the morning, though state media said there was still sporadic sniper fire. July 2023 was the hottest month ever recorded on Earth. And with Sardinia reaching 48 degrees Celsius last week, Europe is setting its own heat record. Heat waves and wildfires swept the Mediterranean region of southern Europe, the traditional summer holiday destination for tourists from around the world. So what does the changing climate mean for the future of European tourism?
Il n'y aura pas de diminution dramatique. Il va y avoir une modification progressive. Comment va se faire cette modification? Elle va se faire en 2 mouvements ou en 2 temps, si je puis dire. D'une part, les Français qui ont beaucoup souffert de la chaleur cet été vont essayer de trouver des destinations un petit peu moins chaudes, c'est-à-dire moins vers le sud, un petit peu plus vers le nord, que ce soit le nord de la France, mais ça peut être également le nord de l'Europe, soit des destinations pendant lesquelles au mois de juillet-août il ne fait pas chaud, mais il faut que les professionnels du tourisme des pays tels que l'Espagne, la Grèce, la Tunisie s'adaptent à une fréquentation moins importante au mois de juillet-août et certainement plus importante au mois de juin et au mois de septembre.
Now, some Europeans are starting to change the way they travel, taking into account destination, time of year, and mode of transport.
The current events are mainly going to impact on last-minute bookings, and these represent a minority of all bookings. Of course, in the places that are the most badly affected, I'm thinking of places like Rhodes or Sicily, the situation is going to be more difficult because in these places, yes, there are some massive waves of cancellations simply because it's not possible to have a pleasant summer holidays in the current circumstances.
But, according to analysts, tourists won't suddenly start avoiding Europe's hottest countries.
The forecast for 2024 is still that travel in the summer season is going to be very strong, especially for the classical or the favorite destinations. Nevertheless, what we are seeing is a trend for holidays or for travel in the shoulder seasons as well. We are looking at is also that there is an increasing interest in less visited destinations like Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, and other destinations which are inland in Europe.
80 years since it was last held by a member of their family, a Bible belonging to a murdered 13-year-old boy passed back to his relatives, the only tangible link to the existence of Bela Engelman.
Look, he wrote his name in Hebrew.
Yeah, Engelman. Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ben-Zion Engelman.
Killed at Auschwitz in 1944, Bela wrote and stamped his name in this schoolbook. Remarkably, it survived, eventually to be unearthed by a Hungarian antique book dealer.
This is the only thing to show that he was alive. We have no birth certificate, there's no photograph.
Nothing, just this writing.
Bela.
Someone watched us on TV, wanted to learn more, and then realised that their father actually might have had books from Lily's family.
This German note, and he wrote on that.
Bela's older sister Lily, who survived the Holocaust, first began researching her past 3 years ago with the help of her great-grandson Dov. She was reunited with the family of the American soldier who liberated her in 1945.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So nice to meet you.
It is so nice to meet you. I can't believe it.
A viral post on Twitter led to Lily being reunited with the soldier's children. Since that meeting and the coverage that followed it, incredible footage of Lily in 1945 has also been uncovered by interested researchers.
I think this story, if you would have told me before it happened that it could happen, I probably would have laughed and not believed you.
The success of the story brought Dov to Hungary on a mission to reconnect with his family's past. Without the worldwide publicity, it's unlikely this book would have ever been found. In Lily's hometown of Bonyhad, only one Jewish person remains, a once vibrant community destroyed by the Nazis.
You can't believe it. The fact that we meet you here today to receive this book is crazy.
Yeah.
In Hungarian, Zsolt Bauer, sitting next to his wife Erica, said it's a miracle that this book survived and we're happy to give it to Lily.
Thank you.
For our whole family, it's so special.
Yeah?
Back in London, the book is brought to Lily, now 99, recovering in hospital following a hip operation.
With his notes inside on some of the pages.
For the Jewish people, it cannot be that that should be the end.
To be able to give her this tangible link to her brother's existence was so special.
Dov, who has family photos of Lily's older brother and younger sisters, would now like to find a photo of Bela to add to the collection. Luke Hanrahan, Euronews, London.
Will we see Russian and Belarusian athletes in neutral uniforms at the Paris Olympics? The International Olympic Committee has still not made a decision on this issue. And in the meantime, qualifications for many Olympic disciplines are already in full swing. So what awaits the athletes?
Since 1992, the age of boycott has been over. But now it's a new situation with the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and the IOC tries to find a middle ground by permitting athletes from Russia and Belarus as neutral athletes. But since there's so much resistance by many federations and national Olympic committees, I think we will just see a very limited presence of athletes from those two countries.
In March, the IOC recommended that Russian and Belarusian athletes who did not publicly support the war in Ukraine be allowed exclusively in a neutral status. But many Olympic sporting bodies have not yet developed criteria for the return of Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete in their competitions.
And the IOC made it clear that nobody who was in the army who publicly supported the war would be permitted at the Olympics. So this sets the bar already quite high.
This week, a year before the opening of the Olympic Games in Paris, the IOC carried out the traditional distribution of invitations to the Games' National Olympic Committees. 203 countries are invited, except for Russia and Belarus. With the Ukraine war ongoing, the IOC will most likely make a decision as late as spring 2024.
It's a very critical decision and situation, and it's not the only conflict in the world. And we should also not forget that many Russian and Belarusian athletes are not in favor with the war. So it's very difficult to answer the question where to draw the line. So the IOC tries here to find a compromise that suits everybody.
Dutch cyclist Demi Vollering secured her first Women's Tour de France title on Sunday after finishing second in the final individual time trial at 29 minutes 25 seconds. Vollering never looked back and crossed the finish line ahead of the nearest rival, Lotte Kopecky. The Belgian eventually had to settle for second place in the overall standings, 3 minutes 3 seconds behind Vollering, with Poland's Katarzyna Niewiadoma completing the podium. Meanwhile, Switzerland's Marlene Russe won the final stage with a time of 29 minutes 15 seconds.